Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Pam Peak. Welcome to episode 7 of the 100 Club podcast, where we're going to be sharing stories of mental and physical transformation with amazing women and men who love to, well, lift heavy things mentally and physically. It's a holistic experience. In doing so, we love to inspire as we perspire. And we're going to be sharing some raw, real, and authentic comments about, well, life's challenges, tough times, and triumphs. So listen up, because today is very special. And just a quick little reminder, a big shout out to everyone out there who wants to join up with the Club 100. All you've got to do is, if you're inspired, if you're just so turned on to join this community, just put 2 100s, that's the red 100 numbers, around your Twitter name, right? And then come on over to at 100 Club 100, and we'll give you a royal welcome. Absolutely, because we love new members, because we love to be able to support and be there for you on your fitness journey, mind and body. All right. Oh, my goodness gracious. Today, our guest is an icon in the field. All right. Can we just give it up for Boyd Myers? Seriously, Boyd, welcome to the Club 100 podcast.
Thanks, Dr. Pam. So glad to be here.
You know, seriously, ever since I read your Twitter feed, which just blew me away, it was like, okay, we got to hear this story. And also, you're helping so many of our members. You've got your brand, you've got your thing going. This is so exciting to be able to kind of tag team and work together to make all of this happen. I love that. So if you go over to Boyd's Twitter feed, what you're going to be able to see, and that's at Boyd, that's BoydMyers. What you're going to see right off the bat is something pretty provocative. And I love the first sentence, and I want to hear the damn story, because this story is a jaw dropper. And for any one of you out there saying, oh, no one's ever had it bad. Yeah. So the first sentence says it all. I've been skinny, a bodybuilder, and a power lifter. Okay, that's a great opener. Boyd, take it away.
Yeah, so I grew up really just a skinny, scrawny kid. So I always laugh when someone says, yeah, but you've got great genetics. I'll pull some of those pictures out, my 17 and 18-year-old self and my 14-inch neck, and tell me how great my genetics are. I went to the military at 18. Pretty quickly, just by the nature of the business, you become physically active. While you were talking, I noticed in the back you have the Body for Life book. So that book shot to prevalence just about the time I became drinking age. And Bill Phillips hosted the first competition, the Body for Life competition. I was just pretty average, right? So, I mean, I was just kind of a skinny fat kid. I mean, I wasn't in terrible shape by any means, but I was very, very, very normal. To say the least, for a 21-year-old kid, and decided, I wanted to do this competition, the first one, because I think he was putting his Lambo up. And I thought, you know what, I'll do it. And like 6 other guys in my office decided, hey, we'll do it with you. And I became religious. The commitment was 12 weeks, make the biggest body transformation. And I would say 6 or 7 weeks into it, the other guys dropped out, and we had bet some money on it. They gave me their money. Right, 6 weeks into it.
Here, just have it.
Yeah, they tapped out quick, right? And then everything started changing for me, the way I viewed everything as I became more confident. We come up to the 12-week mark. For me, it coincided on Labor Day weekend, and I've told the story before, but I had committed that I'm not going to have a cheat meal the entire 12 weeks, right? And I was eating, your typical quote unquote bodybuilder food. I was eating, I was boiling rice and chicken and having broccoli, and eating egg whites. I mean, listen, I didn't know, because up until that point, my diet had been all fast food, right? Or whatever they had in the dining hall, maybe, just junk food. That's how, I kind of had just grown up, and, I was like, but I love the way I felt. And the way I felt it felt better than having junk food felt, right? So we come up on the Labor Day weekend, and the base I'm at decides to just have a big blowout party on the Friday before we go off into Labor Day weekend, because I think we had gone the 101 days of summer without having a DUI. Right. So to celebrate that, they backed the beer trucks up. Right. I had to drop out.
Oh, no.
It's just unlimited, all you can eat. It's all pizza and burgers and hot dogs, foods that I absolutely just love. Right. And I am 11 weeks, 4 days. And I've made this commitment. And I'm sitting there, and I still get choked up when I talk about it, because this is where it clicked for me. I'm sitting and I'm ready. I've got tuna. Right. And I go get a salad. Right. I put the tuna in the bowl. I mean, the salad lettuce, and I'm going to put straight tuna, no mayo, nothing, no relish. I'm eating, like a savage. Right. And I'm looking at it, and everybody's saying, oh, this pizza's so good. Don't you wish you could have a piece of pizza? And I'm struggling, and I want it so bad. I'm so bad. And everybody, they're making fun of me. They're like, dude, look what you've done, man. You're already there. And I was seconds away from going, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go get some pizza. Okay. You know what? They're right. I've done it. I'm going to have some beer too. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at my tuna, and everybody had gone back for seconds or thirds or whatever. And this couple sitting, but they're both military, the husband and wife. And they say something, and I realize they're both looking at me. And I look at them, and they're like, we wish we had your discipline.
Whoa, that's the one.
At that point, see, I never knew they were even watching. But at that point, there was no way. There was no friggin' way that now I got somebody else depending on me. They're getting strength from me, maybe, right? They may be inspired by that. So I just went ahead and stuck with my tuna, and I walked around like a peacock the rest of the day. Went and got a workout in while everybody else was getting blasted at the park, right? So that was my first, like, man, you just don't know who you're influencing, right? Now go on later on. I mean, I was in the military for 10 years, got out, and I started training people about that point. I was, about 21, 22, started training other people. And a lot of times it was for free. Just whoever wanted to be helped, I'd help. I wrote programs, diets, I took people to the gym, start driving to any gym in town that would let me train anybody, and I would train them. Right. And I mean, if I was getting paid, I was losing it and driving all over town, and time and energy and all that, but I didn't care. I loved doing it. So pretty early on, my goal was to eventually, I'd like to get out and open a gym. Right. So I ended up training at one gym where it was really close to my house. And I had a full clientele built up, right? And my son is born in September of 2004. And, like any responsible father, I decide, hey, I need to get out of the comfort of the military and open my own business with an infant. Right now, the military's got some pretty good insurance, and I know I got a check coming every couple of weeks or whatever. So let's get out and start my own business. Well, my son's mother, I'll never forget this. We're laying, and I've already committed. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get out. I may have to go kiss the colonel, but I'm getting my ass out of the military. And that night she's crying. One night she's crying, and I wake up and I'm like, what's going on? She said, I'm afraid we won't survive if you get out of the military. So again, like gauntlet dropped, right? I'm like, I'm getting out now. If I got to go to prison to get out, I'm going to get out now, and I'm going to show her. Right. So I find it kind of an obscure program to get out. I still had like 2 years I was supposed to have left, but I got out to go reserve to double my time back in reserves. Found a job in Baghdad. I don't know what you know about the military, but there's not a lot of money in it, right? So you need money to open a gym and to buy the equipment, because equipment's not cheap. Especially then, because it was hard to find. You just had to kind of pay whatever you could find it for. So I got out, went to Baghdad as a contractor, supposedly on a 12-year contract, a 12-month commitment.
I was going to say, damn.
Yeah. 12-month commitment. I left my son, he was just a few months old at that point. About 11 months comes up, and they're like, hey, we don't have anybody to replace you, so we're going to need you to stay, right? So I ended up staying a total of 20 months. Came home. I missed the first steps. I missed my son's first words. There's a lot of firsts, and cameras back then weren't like what we're looking at right now.
Right.
And then the network over there was a whole different animal itself. But you know, even through that, and that time was when it like really like the training had always been, you know, just be in normal shape. Now I'm over here and I'm like, I'm turning this into bodybuilding camp because I don't have a whole lot of other, you know, other things to do. So it's just training like a monster all the time. I come back, you know, and then I open my gym. And I become a slave to it, right? So you know, but I'm training all, and that's just my entire life. And I'm telling it this way because I want you to understand. It seems easy for that person, but what ended up happening can happen to anybody. So I'm training, start competing in bodybuilding. Got kind of bored with that, and just switched to powerlifting. Love that. And then I don't know, I just got so burned out of just, you know, of fitness being my life for so much, decided to just kind of move on to something else, packed up my family and decided, I was in San Antonio at that point, decided to move north about 5 hours to just north of Dallas, Fort Worth. That did not go the way I expected it to financially. And there's a lot of the story. I mean, I just don't usually have time to tell. I mean, I took a job, I took a business, you know, started in a business, and it just did not go as planned. And I was like, you know, I kind of like, after going through the, you know, the downturn of the economy in 2008, 9, and 10, you know, I struggled a lot. You know, I mean, I kept the doors open, but I wasn't raking the money in by any stretch. And now to have to go several months without making any money, I was in a bad position. We were living on my in-laws' in my in-laws' home. It's a nice size home, but that's never fun. I would say that was probably the point where rock bottom at least started. Okay. I was sitting in their house one Saturday when I walked outside and both of my cars had been repossessed.
Okay. That's the beginning of like a really bad day.
Yeah. That's the beginning of a shitty few years, as a matter of fact. So the in-laws were pretty well off. So that's embarrassing. I'm going out and their neighbors are telling me, yeah, there's some guy pulled up in a wrecker and just put them on. We thought you knew. And I'm like, holy shit, this is embarrassing. Number one. But they both got repoed. That was, yeah, it was a bad feeling, right? To have to go to my father-in-law and explain to him, like, I need help, right? I need, you know, let me get my cars back and, you know, I'll sell them and we'll figure that out. So, started. I was at that point. I worked for Verizon. I was in a sales position with Verizon when I started, and I, you know, kind of got on, you know, good steady footing at that point. But when I walked away from my gym, I walked away from everything healthy. Okay, so this is 2013 going into 2014. Any healthy habit I had, it was gone. I mean, there was no more. I mean, every meal I ate was fast food or was just quick, you know, easy heat up food. I did not train, right? So pretty quickly, I was still consuming the same amount of calories I did as a bodybuilder and a power lifter, but I wasn't burning anything. Okay. So I'm starting to put a lot of weight on. The stress, I'm starting to drink a lot. I mean, regularly, every day, having a few beers, you know, or a couple of vodkas, my drink of choice. And then next thing I know, you know, I start doing well in a career standpoint, but I mean, I work all day and then I come home and I drink and then go to sleep, and it just starts a vicious cycle to where, you know, I don't even know how to get out of it, right? I don't even know if that I care to get out of it, right?
Well, okay, stop there.
Okay.
I want everyone out there in the 100 Club podcast land to just take a breath right now. And what Boyd has shared is a common journey on the part of so many people out there. So when you look at Boyd today and you go, oh, you know, it looks all great and whatever, one of the best things to always remember in life is you have no idea what the backstory is. And when the person is sitting next to you and you're making all kinds of assumptions, that ain't right. And it's really important now to listen and see and reflect and see how much you can relate at whatever level in your own life, where you have this whole trajectory, this whole journey that's now taken us. How old were you when you really started having funky times with drinking and overeating and whatever? Roughly how old were you?
Yeah, I was about 37, 38.
Okay. So there you have it. Now, there you were, and you were in a totally funky rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I switched. I got a pretty crazy job offer to switch to start selling houses. Some of the guys that I knew that were doing it were just making just crazy money, and I figured, you know what? I've always been pretty money motivated, right? So I take the leap, and never mind. I know they're like, hey, we work 80, 85 hours a week, but the income potential is unlimited, right? So I start that. That was in 2016. At about this point, physically, I'm about as unhealthy, as I could possibly be.
Were you obese? Did you have?
Oh, absolutely. I had ballooned up bad, right? So I quit getting on a scale. I would say at this point I was about 260 ish. I probably needed to be wearing about 46 pants. I think I was holding on to like 39s or something because I didn't want to go to 40. I look like shit. I see the pictures, and it was crazy. It never occurred to me. I would assume it was a bad picture. I justified it, right? That there's no way I've fallen that far. In my mind, I'm still this bodybuilder powerlifter guy, and I'm a little bloated, right? Because I had Whataburger last night. So it's not, I'm not fat. There's no way. And I can turn some lights and switch and look in the mirror, and I'm like, oh, I can almost see some abs.
But here's the funny thing. So many people do this. And what they do is they go into this really strange delusional state where what you do is you default back to a place you had been for quite some period of time. You were really fit, you look great, you felt great, all the rest of it. And that's where your brain goes. It's like brain hacking in the worst way. And you just can't believe it until something happens. Now, we're going to be waiting here because we want to hear what that aha moment was when suddenly you go, wait a minute. This isn't right, but keep going. I want to hear when it happens.
Yeah, so I just physically I was in a toilet. Now financially I'm making more. I would have to. Unless the Cowboys call me, and they're not calling some fat late 30s guy. I'm now pushing 40 at this point. I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life, right? And it's crazy how you always assume the more I have, the happier I'll be. I was dying inside. The more I had, the more I needed, the more I craved, right? And the further away I got from that person that was healthy, we go through a few months there. And there was the first point, I had a few of those aha moments, right? There was a guy he's one of my best friends, and I thought of him as obese, right? And someone said something along the lines of, Jerry's almost as big as you are now.
Oh, no, he did not.
Somebody said that to me, and they're saying it like I knew, right? That he was smaller than me, and I thought he was
There you go. There you go. And you're like, uh-oh, reality check. All right, you just had a 2x4 slapped right across your head.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I bought a Peloton at that point, but I never got on it, right? So I bought it, but I had it. So I went and spent $3,000 or whatever I spent, I had the option now, right? But I just never got on the damn thing. I think I got on it like once or twice. I was like, man, this thing hurts my ass. I'm not riding this thing. So go on a couple of more months, right? So I end up buying the house that I'm sitting in right now that is for sale right now, right? I'm selling it. I'm starting to downsize, and we'll cover that in a minute. But so I bought this big house. I designed this big, beautiful house, and everything's going well, but still something's missing. Physically inside me, something's dying. I find out the day I close on this house, and here I am. Let me go back. So I'm 41. I find out my wife is pregnant. Right. So
nice.
Yeah, great. Right. So in about July, I'm going to be having someone else. Now I see the pictures of the day I closed on that house, of this house. And I'm just like, holy shit, man, that guy does not need a kid, because he's not going to be around long enough to raise a child. Okay.
Oh, no. Okay. Now there it is right there. One of the things that's so important is that when people want to make a change in life, whether it's, just this whole situation that you're talking about or whatever it may be, you're not going to make any kind of change until you have acid meaning and purpose behind the change. If I walk up as a physician and I go, yo, Boyd, okay, dude, seriously, I mean, you are obese and this is all bad, and heart disease and God knows what else, and back and forth, diabetes is right around the corner and whatever. And you're like, yeah, thanks for sharing. And then meanwhile, you grab another burger. So what's happening here is something really just like a spear right into you, into your core. And it was yet another wake-up call. It's like, well, let me connect the dots, right? I'm obese, I'm unfit physically, and there may be some stuff going on mentally in terms of I'm just, walking around stressed out because I'm just so I'm so out of it and all the rest of it. And then there's denial, like, nah, I'm really okay, and back and forth. There's all this monkey brain stuff going on. And then all of a sudden you get this thing. And now you have to connect it to your own child. And that is probably about as primal and as amazing as you're ever going to get in your life. And so what happened right after that realization?
Yeah, so you would think it would drive my ass to get up and do something, but it just the 80-hour weeks piled up at work, the drinking got heavier, and I just became more and more depressed. And then it really occurred to me, man, I'm in bad shape. I mean, we're going at the first part of 2018, and I hurt walking up the steps is hard. That's where I kept the vodka usually, so I knew I was very very aware that walking up those stairs was a challenge, right? I was like, I'd get lightheaded, I'd just get short of breath. The smallest physical activity just wiped me out, right? So I started looking, and I had a buddy that had like a widowmaker scare with a heart scare, and I'm convinced, man, I'm about to die, right? I mean, I know, and so let me back up. So here now, we're getting pretty close to my daughter being born. We had 3 miscarriages, right? So the last thing I want to do is worry her, because this is high risk and we're nervous, right? We're not, this is, I mean, there was a DNC, it was some late term miscarriages. And I don't want to scare her. I want her healthy and happy, right? She's going to be a great mother. I don't know how long I'm going to be around at this point, but I just keep stressing about the idea that I'm not going to be able to raise my daughter. But being stressed wasn't enough. Being afraid of it wasn't enough. I still just kept wallowing in that like, wow, I'm in bad shape. And I knew it. And I was in a rut, but the only difference between a rut and a grave is the depth. Okay. Now, I wasn't 6 feet deep, but I was really damn close, Pam.
Yeah, you got the worms crawling over you. Yeah. You got a lot of dirt kind of hanging around you, everything. And I also want to, I'm grabbing all these life lessons, right, from your wonderful words. You're so articulate about this whole thing. Here's what's interesting. People assume that when you paint this scenario like you are, it's like, well, duh, obviously you're going to change. I remember as a medical student when we had some guy who came in for a triple bypass. I got a news flash for everyone. It's no fun, right? I mean, you get split the chest and do this thing, and it's all bad, right? And then you have to go to the ICU, blah, 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 and the rest of it, let alone the cost, the hassle. And so, the guy was a smoker, drinker, had a belly that resided in another county, it was all bad. And then, I was like this naive medical student. So I go, oh, for sure, he's going to change his life. And I'm not kidding you. I went outside for just a moment outside the medical center, just for a breath of fresh air. And there's the guy. He had just been discharged. He was waiting for his wife to pick him up. Not kidding you. He had the cigarette in hand, and the wife shows up, and he had asked her to get some food because I was saying bye, and whatever. And we were talking a little bit. He asked her to go get his favorite food. Honey, it was the biggest ass bag of fast food I have ever in my life. And then I said, well, but you just had a triple bypass. He said, it's okay. I'll have another one like this. I walked in, I was horrified. And that was my first slap in the face with, what's it going to make someone change? What's going to happen? All right. And for every single human being, it's something different.
Yeah.
So keep going.
Yeah, in my case, it was a lot of something different. So we roll up, and now I'm starting to read about heart attacks and guys my age having cardiac arrest. And I'm convinced. I mean, my advice, my first piece of advice I'd give anybody: just go to the damn doctor. Don't get on WebMD, because I don't care what you have, your ass is dying. Okay, you got heart cancer and lung cancer and brain cancer and all this shit. You're dying.
And we're real good at telling you that too. So y'all come on down and see us.
Yeah. So I started like having these like, yeah, man. Now I started thinking about it. I'm certain I'm afraid to even look at my blood pressure because I know it's through the roof. I think my neck hurts. I felt some pain in my left arm. I'm short of breath. I've got a lot of different things going on. Okay. So what I figured out was, I'm not doing well. So I go to work.
Understatement.
Yeah. So I go to work on Father's Day, and I'm stressed because now we're about 3 weeks out of having this child, and I'm on Father's Day, and I've never felt worse than I felt at that moment. Okay. So I'm sitting there and I'm talking, a guy's talking to me, and I'm just lightheaded. I don't feel well. I've got a headache. I've got a lot of stuff going on. And I just like, hey, I think I'm having a heart attack. And he says, go. Right. So I don't want to freak out. And he's like, you want me to call an ambulance? So I'm like, no, I don't call an ambulance. Let me, I'll go myself. Right. So I nonchalantly, I've never home on a Sunday. That's when people buy houses. I show up and I'm like, hey, I don't feel well. I just wanted to go to the doctor. Yeah. Thinking that's not going to scare somebody that does not go to the doctor, wants to go to the doctor all of a sudden. So I was like, why don't you drive? So she drove me to the doctor. Went in, and I'm trying to be as calm and as cool about it as I can. I walk up and I whisper to the lady, I think I'm having a heart attack. Okay. If you know this, if you want to get to the back of the hospital and you want to see what goes on back there quickly, go in and tell them that.
Just say that one sentence.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. That's your ticket to the party. Come on down.
So, yeah, they throw me on the gurney. I mean, before I know it, my shirt's off. I'm in a gown.
IVs are in, and
IVs. Yeah, they give me morphine, right? And I'm like, they were like, hey, we want to, I don't know, dilate the, whatever, right? And I'm just like, okay, now I'm terrified. So they draw some blood. They've got stuff running in me. They start, they do every scan you can do quickly, and they're, pretty quickly determine I'm not having a heart attack. My blood pressure is through the roof. After they, get I'm sitting there wondering, they're like, you're not dying, you're not having a heart attack, just relax. My blood work ends up coming back, and they're like, listen, you're not having a heart attack today. Okay.
So wait a minute now, everybody out there, what you're about ready to hear from Boyd is a come to Jesus session from the medical provider to Boyd. Go for it.
Yeah. So you're not having a heart attack today, but dude, they're like, the other guy's like, he's being like I don't know the guy. I don't remember the guy's name, but he was great at what he did. He's like, basically, look at your fucking wife. She's 9 months pregnant, son. What are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I know I got to change. And I'm basically like, I haven't always been like this. I used to be pretty incredible shape. Right. And so we go home. I don't go to work that day. I go home, we relax, and I drink some water. That's probably the healthiest day I'd had in several years.
Water is good.
Yeah. I always drink water. That's the thing. Water's the one healthy habit I've always had. Right. But I didn't drink any alcohol that night. Okay. And I may have had a Schlotsky salad or something, right? Now, I was just saying, I understand nutrition pretty well, but I was like, that was a big jump up for me compared to what I had been eating, okay? Next couple of weeks, we're just getting ready for the baby. So I use that as kind of like, you know what? Once the baby's here, I'm really going to buckle down and eat well, right?
Procrastination.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, when I say DBAP,
kick the can down the curb. Oh yeah.
Give me a little bit of time, right? When I say DBAP, what I really originally meant by that was don't be a procrastinator. Okay, so
absolutely.
So I pushed it off. The baby comes July 19th, 2018. I see my pictures to this day. I'm ashamed of them. Look like hell, but now I've got a little baby girl, right? And she immediately controlled my entire world. So now the fact that I really want to see, and I'm 40, and when she was born, I'm 42. I'm already going to be 60 when she graduates high school. I'm already going to be the old dad, right? So in my mind, I'm like, I'd like to be, it's important to be around, right? For, but again, I've got a new baby. So I use the common excuse. We're not sleeping, the baby's up and this and this and this. I mean, the same thing you hear everybody saying. And then we get to October, and I decide in October, I'm like, you know what? I've got to do something. I've got to make a change, right? So I'm going to go out and go for a run. Now, I figured I wouldn't get on the scale. So I know I was over 270, right? But I'm not going to.
How tall are you?
Right at 6 foot. So.
Okay.
So
we have some large on board.
Yeah, I'm not a little guy, right? So I decide, I'm still an athlete. I'm tough in my mind, right? I can go run 3 or 4 miles. Okay. That's where I'm going to start. It's going to suck, but I'm going to do it. I had stopped. I bought a new pair of running shoes and everything. I was convinced, okay, now it's time. This bullshit's got to stop, right? I walked out of my house, right? This house, there's 3 hills. There's 3 roads that come out. So my house is kind of the corner, like crossroads, right? And you're going uphill no matter where you leave my house. And I might have made it 1,000 feet. And Dr. Pam, I was fucking done.
That's it. 1,000 feet, and you were speed dialing 911.
I thought that this was the heart attack.
We're done.
Yeah, my everything that could hurt did hurt. My stomach, my calves, my feet, my ankles,
teeth,
my ears, my pride. Okay.
Oh, that's the one we're going for.
I sat down, and I go by this spot every day, and I sit down, and I'm just disgusted. I cried. I was like, man, I'm not going to be around that. This should not have done this to me. Okay. So I'm in my mind, all my neighbors are out. They look at this fat dude running up the street, right? That's where I was at now. Now I know enough now that nobody else gives a shit. They're so worried about their
that's
stuff.
The funniest thing. Everyone assumes, people have like binocs or something behind drapes, and they're like following your every move. Meanwhile, they're worried about you doing the same thing to them, and nobody's looking at anyone because they're all so messed up. They don't care. They're just all entangled. I think that's very funny.
Yeah, we're all, that's one thing. Everybody's so worried about their own bullshit. Like, don't worry. Like, people are like, I don't want to go to a gym because people are going to stare at me. Listen, if first off, they're in shape, they're busy staring in the mirror at themselves, and they're not in shape. They're worried about everybody else, right?
Yeah, they want to look at their own physique. They couldn't give a damn about yours.
Exactly. So I go back. So again, October, I want to say mid-October, I go back and just kind of hang out. Just well, you know what? That maybe I'm destined not to get in shape, right? So I'm a fan of the Joe Rogan podcast. Started watching a little bit of Joe. And one of the episodes of David Goggins came on, right?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, this was his first one. He comes on, and I don't know how it was suggested to me or recommended. I start watching, and I'm like, man, I can relate. This guy's been through a lot of the similar stuff I have. I know we had both, when I had come into the Air Force, I came in to do Air Force pararescue. I found out later he and I were in training together. So it's kind of we had some parallels. Yeah, he would have been, the class is called Balls 5. I mean, depending on what class. I was Balls 5 of 95. He would have been Balls 2 of 95. I messaged him like, hey man, check this out. We know some mutual people, and I figured it out. And I'm like, you would have been, I told him, what I thought of the class. He basically said, Roger that, stay hard. That's all the words he said to me. So,
honey, that's all you need from Goggins.
Yeah. That was like, yeah, that was like he
golden.
He sent me Shakespeare, right? I mean, for him, he's like, Roger that, stay hard. I think I've still got the message. So I really was like, I grew attached to this guy's story, right? I was like, and then I started paying attention to Rich Roll. He was about my age when he had his little heart scare. So I'm getting some inspiration here. And I'm still not doing shit about it, right? So October, now I'm like, you know what? We're rolling into the holidays. After the first of the year, and that's the thing. I have written a blog post called New Year, Same You. right? But now I'm going to wait till the new year, right? That's what I need to do. Because
okay, now there's a famous book that was written by a researcher whose name is Prochaska, and it's really the stages of change. And what happens is there's kind of this pre-contemplation. It's like, yeah, I really should change. Whatever. Can I have another smoke? Like if I'm talking about cigarettes, right? Then there's a period that you go through of contemplation, like, damn, people really get sick with cigarettes and stuff. And that's also associated with drinking. And it's also associated with the other 900 addictions I have. And the rest of it, that's really kind of interesting. And then you sort of like stay there for a little while. And then sometimes you even flip back to pre-contemplation, like, nah, I'm really okay. I really am that slender, lean dude that I was 10 years ago. And you just keep going back and forth until one day, all of a sudden, you have this realization and you actually begin to do something called planning. You start planning. You start doing little things like, maybe I'll re-up that gym membership, new pair of sneakers. But you, to a certain degree, you're planning and you're strategizing, but you still haven't done like the fathom leap. We haven't done that yet. So this is what I love to call dancing around the issue. All right. So we're getting everything all prepared and everything, but the poor little sneakers are right there near the front door and nobody's wearing them. And there you have it. Gym bag is sitting there right there, but damn thing doesn't go anywhere. And then all of a sudden, again, there's an aha moment that just sort of says, shut up and just do it. And then you just sort of bite it and you just do it. And then you move into what we call action. And that's where it all happens. So what's cool with you is you're dancing. You're going, okay, I got this. I have some sneakers and this and that in October, and then December and January 1st, that'll be the one, and whatever. So you're still dancing. We still haven't done like the big plunge yet. Go for it.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm also still paying whatever the Peloton membership is too. Still not riding it, but I'm paying the monthly, right?
The Peloton people love people like you.
Oh yeah, I mean, every
Keep
gym
paying that sucker.
Yeah, I'll never cancel a gym membership. I'm probably still paying on gym memberships from the 90s, right? So, yeah, so I'm still paying for my Peloton, and I'm really embracing Goggins' story. And then he comes on again. Then I realized he's got a book coming out, right? That book was released.
Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah, Can't Hurt Me.
That's the name of the book.
Yeah, so I bought the audiobook the second it became available, and I set just listen to it. I set for what I listen to stuff on like I talk like 1.5 or 2.0, right? I'm the speed's flying, right? I'm like, holy shit, man, this is where it's at, right? And I got to do something, right? So I walk out and I'm like, we're gonna do this run. I don't know if I can go 3 or 4 miles, but I'm going to go further. And I think I went maybe 50 feet further, right? But this time it's different. This time I can't run. I figured that out, right? December 12th, 2018. I can't run, but I've got that fucking Peloton I've already spent $3,000 on, $4,000 on, counting the membership. I'm going back and I'm getting whatever. I walk my ass back down to the house, change shoes, put the most padded shorts. I think I put a pillow on it too. And I got on it and I pedaled. Okay. That's December 12th. Right. So now it just feels different. I've got a spark and it's delicate, but if I can just catch it, I've got the kindling here, if I can just get a little bit of a flame, I've got a shot, right, of making this last. And so that we had put our Christmas tree up, and I had moved the Peloton into my media room, right? My media rooms are known to be, you can close them up and they're completely dark, right? But you've got the big giant screen in the Peloton. You can watch the dancing, listen to 90s music, whatever you want to listen to, or just watch Whistler, Canada on your ride, right? Whatever, it's pictures of anything, Vancouver, whatever. So that night I go to bed, and that night I wake up wide awake at 2 a.m. And I'm like, I got to go do something, man. Goggins would get up and go run and jump in the pond. Well, it's December in Texas, and it was in the 20s or 30s. I'm like, I'm not going to go get in the pond yet, but I can go in here and get on this Peloton, right? So I go in and I get in my media room, and I get on, I clip in, and this time I don't turn the TV on. I don't turn any lights on. It's just me in the dark. And that wasn't designed to be symbolic of anything. That wasn't designed to be me. I just thought, let me pedal for a minute. And I pedaled for 4 hours straight. And at that point I realized, well, I had no idea I could do that. Right. I wanted to stop and I didn't know shit. I had trained for power sports and for body transformation stuff. Serious endurance was, I didn't know anything about it. Right. And I knew that doing a bunch of cardio wasn't the answer to losing weight, but I had to do something. I had to keep the momentum. And that's what I did that day. So I go to work. I wake up and I'm like, before I go to work, I come out and I'm like, I'm jacked, right? I should be dead tired, baby's still asleep, wife's still asleep. I'm going to wake somebody's ass up and tell them I just rode 4 hours on that Peloton, right? I don't know how far I went. I think I just got an Apple Watch, which I was kind of addicted to seeing the loops close on that thing. But I think it estimated, I had ridden maybe 50 miles or something. I don't even remember what it said. I just remember I'd burned a ton of calories. So I go and I sit down and I'm like, I got to do something. I got to sign up for something, right? Let me see what races are going to be around here. And I can't run 1,000 feet. So, a 5K would be a great idea. And then I discovered these Spartan races and I'm like, you know what? June 22nd, there's one or maybe it's June 29th. There's one in Dallas, Texas. Okay. At Jerry's World down at the stadium. I can go down there. I can do that. Man, it'll take the whole 6 months to get ready for this damn thing, right? Because I'm in a hole. I recognize that. It's going to take me 6 months. To do a 5K, I really believed it was going to take me 6 months, okay? So I go to work and I tell everybody that has ears that I've signed up for a 5K. And they're like, oh, big deal, right? And I was like, hey, and I rode my Peloton for 4 hours. I think they think I'm insane. But I'm like, I'm done drinking. I'm not eating any processed food for the time being. If I'm going to eat food the way they are in nature, I'm eating one ingredient foods. That's it, right? That's just what I'm going to do. And they're like, yeah, right. You'll be at the bar tonight. And I'm like, no, I won't. So I go back home the next day. I do a little walk run. It's not far, but I'm like, I remember distinctly the loop around my neighborhood is 1 mile. From my driveway to my driveway is 1 mile. And I remember thinking, daydreaming, man, how cool will it be when I can do a mile? Holy shit. Probably in a month or 2 or 3 months, I'll be able to do a mile, right? That's how far gone I believed I was. But I can get my ass on that Peloton and I can pedal. So I decide I go run, I run around the block. And I'm like, I'm not going to stop. I'll walk and then I'll run a little more. And I did that and I got around the block, but I was just thinking to wait till I can do it once without stopping. So I come back, I get on the Peloton. I'm starting to actually feel like an athlete in my mind, right? Here we are 2 days into it, really.
You're having what we call a Rocky moment.
Exactly.
You just ran up those damn stairs. You're just like arms are in the air. You're doing it.
Yeah.
But this is an important thing. And that is that Flo Jo, the famous sprinter, she had 3 words she loved to say. Believe. It starts with your mind. Believe, then achieve, then succeed. But people think that you're a robot. You just show up, you run, whatever. But you've got to have a vision. So in your mind, you are like back to athlete again. Like, I can do this. I'm the runner. We can make this work. And so there you were. Take it away.
Yeah. So I'd gone to Dick's Sporting Goods and I bought this beautiful running jacket. And I remember thinking, man, that's going to be the jacket I do some serious runs in. Love that jacket. Why? It looks like a stormtrooper, right? I'm a huge Star Wars fan, right? So I go and I do this loop around the block here. So I do my mile. I don't know about time. It wasn't anything I'll be admitting to these days. And then I get on the Peloton, right? And and it hits me and I'm like, you know what? That 1 mile did not kill me. You know what? I'm afraid this 5K is not going to keep its shine to me. And I need something that's going to scare me and motivate me. So I get off the Peloton and I go and I say, okay, I need something big. but it's got to be done soon. Goggins talked about in his book, people talk about, oh, someday I'm going to run an ultra. I'm going to go run 100 miles. He's like, sign up right now. So I knew I couldn't put it off. I know. So I was like, okay, I decided I'm going to do an Ironman, right? I looked, the last Ironman in North America was Ironman Arizona, which was November 24th, 2019, which gives me about 11 months. Right now we're on about December 15th.
Okay. So I'm a triathlete. I'm a senior Olympic triathlete. So I'm saying to myself, you're out of your mind. So you're overweight. You haven't worked out since dinosaurs ruled the earth. And now you're going to go from 0 to Ironman. To give people an understanding of how the triathlon thing works, there's a sprint, which is fairly straightforward. That's a great entry thing. I thought you were going to be, make enough sense to say, oh, I'm going to do a sprint. There's an Olympic, which is basically double that, then double the Olympic distance. And by the way, the Olympic distance is what you do see in the Olympics. And then you do a half iron, which is double, the Olympic. And then you do an iron, which is, how do I say this nicely? You have to be crazy to want to do an iron. I'm just playing. But I mean, so you went from 0 to nuts. And when I first read that, I think I read it on your Twitter feed. I was like, what the hell was he thinking? I mean, that's insane. But here's the important thing. That's another lesson from all this. You have muscle memory. You were once extremely fit, and your muscles were like, whoa, I've been asleep for a while. You want me to do what? But then they come alive. And what's really cool is that muscle memory stays with you. And so because you had a solid foundation, you had a different start point than so many other people who were never fit to start with. So you were like fit off fit is what happened.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I got a little secret I have to share. So when I signed up for an Ironman, I signed up for Ironman Arizona. I got the receipt. I was like, man, I just paid a lot of money to drop that. And then I looked.
It cost a lot of money.
Okay. Oh yeah. So, I mean, I paid whatever it was, right? I remember thinking, okay, now let me read about how to become an Ironman. The first article I find tells me the distances. See, I thought an Ironman was like a mile swim, 50 mile ride.
No. That's the sprint.
I just didn't know. I had no idea. And I'd find out an Ironman is a 2.4 mile swim, a 112 mile bike ride, and a marathon, 26.2 miles. Now, let me put that into context. At that point, I hadn't swam a lap in 25 years. Okay. And I was never a good swimmer, right? Even though I went to Air Force pararescue training, I sucked through that. And a lot of that was fin swimming and just doing water confidence stuff, not straight out, lap swimming. And I was just 18 and just too dumb to stop doing it, right? But I didn't know how to breathe. I wasn't a good swimmer. I hadn't run a lap in over 13 years. I mean, I hadn't run a mile in 13 years at this point. I had never been on a road bike. The only kind of bike I'd been on was that stupid Peloton, right?
So instead of using common sense, once you had seen all these distances, and you said, I made a mistake. Let's go to a sprint as a start, and then we'll just sort of work our way through Olympic and half iron and whatever. You did what?
No, yeah, I just I went the whole way, and I was like, okay, well, I got to figure something out, right? So now I've got a lot of motivation, right? And I understand now, if I thought 5K was going to take me 6 months, an Ironman is going to take me every bit of 11 months. And I have no idea if I'll ever be able to do it. Right. So that day I went out, and the next day I wake up and I'm off that day. And on my way to work every day, I used to drive by this beautiful Greenbelt park, and there's a bridge, and I would see that bridge and I would see people running, and they run back into what looked like the woods. I had no idea where it went, but I always thought it'd be cool to find out. So I decide, I'm going to go over there and find out where that goes. Okay. I'm going to go check that out. And I go over, I realize you got to pay to get into it. I go ahead and buy the state park pass, $75 for the year in Texas. And then I really don't know a whole lot about hydration and all that nonsense yet, but I think I've got a body armor and some water, and I've got like a Camelback, right? Now understand, at this point, I hadn't run. I'd run a mile. Right. So I go and I get to that bridge, and I just start running. And about two maybe 2.5 hours later, I had run 12 miles. And I'd just been eating, I'd been eating right for about 3 days at this point. And I'd run.
So really, if I can interrupt, again, normal people, I stress normal people can't do that. You have to already have a foundation of fitness, but at the same time, genetically and otherwise, you're starting to leverage a lot of gifts here, because the grand majority of people can't do that. Now, I'm on the board of the American College of Sports Medicine. Most of my colleagues would fall off their chairs and cry if they just heard this story, because this is not the way you're supposed to do it. However, so let's speed forward. You made it through that. What happened at the Ironman? What actually happened at the Ironman?
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of craziness. I want to back this up for one quick second. On Father's Day, I come to the week before, I realized Father's Day. So a year to the day after my heart scare, there's a sprint triathlon. That was the first triathlon I did.
Okay, now there you go.
Yeah, so I was like, hey, it's right here. It's right where I run. And it's I found out about it because they were hosting it where I swim at. And I was like, I can do that. That sprint triathlon on June 22nd, that was what was June 22nd, because I just see the medal right here. That was the hardest thing I'd ever done that day. And I'm only at this point 5 months out from an Ironman, and this sprint was hard. Now, I don't have different thresholds at this point. All I know is to go. I don't know zone 2 versus zone 5 because I have one speed, right? I'm heavy. Now at this point, I've lost like 45, 50 pounds, but I do the triathlon. I finish it. It was the happiest day of my life. My family's there, my son, my daughter. The pictures to this day still, I was like, that's when I realized, like, holy shit. Instead of being discouraged, I was encouraged by like, hey, I can do this, right? And I've still got 5 months, I'm too dumb to know that that's not a lot of time to go from sprint to Ironman. People do years to do that. I don't know that. I don't care because that's not me. Okay. So I end up getting to Ironman. That's like a spiritual journey to get to Arizona. And I, in my mind, I've done it so many times already. I suffered through the heat of Texas, I would go on 120-mile bike rides. I'd go run. The first I'd run at that point was about 20 miles, but I knew I could spend 12 hours on a bike. Right. So I was like, I can spend the time. That's 17 hours. As long as I survive and I don't stop moving, I should be okay. Right now, let me be clear here. You know this right here. Swimming in open water, you cannot practice that any other way but swimming in open water. Okay. I'm still not a great swimmer. I'm not a great swimmer now, but I'm a lot better than I was. So I was the kind, if I was in a pool and there were other people in my lane, I wanted to get the hell out. I didn't want other people in my lane. So now I'm going to get in the water with about 2,500 people at the same time. Right.
And they're kicking and you get smacked in the head.
Oh yeah.
And, oh my God. The first one I did, it was like, are you kidding? These people are beasts out here. And by the way, the hardest part for all intent and purposes for most triathletes is the swim, because of the logistics and also because not all triathletes are great swimmers. They'll get through it. They'll power through it. It'll be done. Some triathletes are master swimmers. I'm a master swimmer, so I have no problem out there in the water and stuff. I just don't like being kicked in the head. And so I just kick back and we get vicious out there after a while. But yeah, it's absolutely true. The swim is an absolutely strange experience. Yeah.
So there's one big part of the story I'm kind of missing. About 10 days after I started, Lisa, who's now my ex-wife, she was hanging Christmas lights, fell and shattered her leg.
Oh, no.
So I had every reason. So I became the nurse, daddy, mommy, chauffeur,
caregiver.
Yeah, I was everything. So that's a whole story in itself. But there were days like to go out and run, I would go out and run around my yard. I'd run for an hour, 2 hours in my yard in circles. And sometimes I'd go out to run 5 miles and that would be a half mile at a time because my little walkie-talkie thing, my baby would start screaming. So I had to go back in, make sure she was good.
Tell us about the Ironman that you finished.
So go out there. We go into the water. I'd had a little struggle on the practice swim by getting kicked in the face, and my nose I thought was broken. As soon as I get in the water, I decide, hey, I'm going to go to the clean water. I'm going to go inside of everybody and I'm going to swim there. I'm just not going to mess with these salmon. Everybody's swimming over top of each other. So I get tangled up immediately with somebody. And I'm stronger than him. He panics. He's probably the one guy in the water that was a worse swimmer than me. He takes my goggles straight off. Now, this water is about 57 or 58 degrees Fahrenheit. I swim over to the little thing, and I'm sitting there for a second. I'm thinking, I'm 200 yards into this, and I don't have goggles. And I've still got basically 2.35 miles to go. And the guy looks at me and says, man, you don't have goggles. I'm like, no shit, right? And he said, you want me to call the jet skis? And I'm noticing here we're just barely into this race, and there's already people quitting quick. That right. And I was like, no, I guess it doesn't matter now. And he's like, what are you going to do? I said, I guess I'm going to swim. So I just put my face down and I swam. I get to where I realized the halfway mark. Because I'd stood on this bridge a couple of days. I've looked linear from the halfway mark. And I remember thinking, fuck, that's a long way, right? That's the halfway mark, right? I got to come down and go back here and go back. So I get to that bridge and I go around it and I flip over on my back, right? I'm like, let me get my face out of the water for a second because that's what's killing me. My eyes, put your face in cold water. It sucks, right? So I'm looking up onto the bridge on my back and I realize, hey, I'm actually moving okay. But I figured I wasn't going to make the time. So I look down at my watch thinking, it's got to be almost, kill time. And I look down, I'm like, holy shit, I've still got plenty of time. I'm more than halfway and only about a third of the time's gone, right? So now I'm like, okay, just take it easy. Don't waste any energy. I ain't got to put my face back in the water if I don't want to. So I get down to the end and to the last, you go across that like 300 or 400 yards across it. And in the grand scheme of things, it's not a whole lot of distance. I go to turn and I'm just going to go Michael Phelps, as good as I can Michael Phelps, which isn't anywhere near Michael Phelps, right? So I turn over and I start banging, but as soon as I do, I feel somebody's over here trying to get my attention. I think it's a course marshal telling me, dude, you missed something back here. That's my mindset. They're going to tell me I'm disqualified. And it was a guy and he's like showing me he's got goggles. So I get the goggles. I'm like, thanks, in the water. I have earplugs in. So I pull them down, but I never pull them over my eyes. And I swim. So I swim, I get out of the water and I realize, and now if you've ever been to an Ironman, it is bananas coming out of the water. There's 5,000 people screaming, going bananas, screaming. There's where you get your first picture taken, really. I pull the goggles back down in my face like an idiot. The picture behind me, I have goggles on out of the water. So,
well, the key thing here that many people don't know if they haven't done triathlon is that every single stage, and that is the swim, bike, run, the 3 stages, is timed. If you don't make it in by a certain time, you're pulled. And so you can make it in for the swim, but if you screw up with the bike, you're pulled. And basically you're DQ'd, you're disqualified. And so, you finally, get that whole thing. Take us to the end, because I really want to get to some other stuff here. Take us all the way to the end. So you biked the 125, right?
Yeah, I killed the bike, did the bike in about 6 hours. My first Ironman, I was pretty pleased with that. Did start crying on the bike, and then before it hit me like, hey, idiot, you can still end this right now. You crash, it's over, right? You break your bike, it's over. Did the run. And I remember thinking, when I get to the run, 26.2 miles, I had never run a marathon before. A marathon is a long fucking day, right? People train their whole lives to run a marathon. I'm like, shit, I just got a marathon to go. I just got 26.2 miles. It's done. I've heard Mike Riley say, Boyd Myers, you are an Ironman a million times, to where now as I get close, I'm hearing him call it out. You can hear it for about 2 miles, right? I don't want it to end. I want to be on that course forever. I'm smiling, I'm laughing. I stop at the last aid station and I get water and I wash my face. I'm like, okay, let's get calm here. I got salt all over me. I smell like shit. And I get to that chute and it's just unbelievable. And you can't see anything. It's so bright. When you finish late at night, they got all the lights on, right? Because I'm slow. I can't see a damn thing. But a guy that had stayed with me on the run said, brother, this is yours. Go. Let me go. Right. He stood back. And then I still got the video of Mike Riley saying that. Now, a buddy had
heard those words. What were the words?
Myers, you are an Ironman.
That's correct, Mundo. And the thing that people also have to understand is that you only have how many hours to finish an Ironman?
Total 17.
17 hours. If you are 17-1, you get cut off. So everyone knows, to kind of get that little Hummer going when you're on the marathon track for this, because you have got to make it by 17 hours. And so you did. Now, I want to flash forward here. Clearly we're going to have you on maybe 35 more times on the podcast, but I wanted everyone to hear your story for so many reasons, right? So you had a story that, again, I think a lot of people out there could really relate to. I was cool, then I'm not so cool. I got caught up in life. Things got funky. People make plans, God laughs, and it just works that way. And the question is, when do you really have that moment where you really can make changes to make it any better? And it's not what you think. It's not like, well, I thought I almost had a heart attack. Clearly, I'm going to change tomorrow. Maybe not so much. Some people, yes. Some people, absolutely not. So don't make assumptions. What has to happen, what I will tell you, is that, your beautiful baby girl, your little daughter, being born and the whole thing, I think that hit to your core in a big way. And I think you needed to have a time with Boyd, and I'll tell you exactly when that happened. It happened in the darkness of that media room when you were on that Peloton for 4 hours straight. There was something cooking in you that said, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this stuff. It's not working, right? And I'm perched on the precipice of wanting to really kick some behind here to be able to change. And everyone out there knows when they've had some aha moments that just absolutely spear you with purpose and meaning, and that are unique to you, because what was important to you is like useless to the next guy. And that's why you can never look at someone else and go, well, So Goggins, yeah, he went through a lot. There's no question about it. He wasn't exactly, the star in the classroom here. He had plenty of failures, and yet with each one, he grew wiser and stronger, and he wouldn't let go. So what are some of the things you learn? Persistence is absolutely critical here. Persistence, grit, just shut up and do it, and grit, and resilience, being able to adapt and adjust to stuff as it happens. And then also, quite frankly, self-forgiveness. You just say to yourself, look, it is what it is. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do my absolute best, whatever that looks like. So for you, it was 1,000 feet, and then speed dialing 911. It was like, okay, 1,000 feet, crying, freaking out, going, are you flipping kidding me? But that's when your delusions went right down, the hole. You just said, well, I can't do, no, this is crazy. How did I get my behind in this kind of shape? This is nuts. And piece by piece, you said it yourself so beautifully. I had a whole lot of aha moments. It wasn't just like one grand, like lightning strikes and everything changed the next day. I mean, again, it can happen. But for you, it was like stepwise. Things were happening. It was like the universe was speaking. It's like, come on now, we can do better than that. And there you are. So speed forward to today, you've now dedicated yourself to helping others with an entire fitness program, with an entire, way to be able to get people going, motivated back and forth. Your videos are insane. So whenever I'm having a funky day, I just go, let me get one of these Boyd videos, like when he's in the car and just sort of talking to the phone, and F-bombs are flying everywhere. And, and it's just like, whoa, okay, I feel better now. I think I'm going to go to the gym. So tell us what you're doing today, Boyd. What are you doing?
Well, so that was Ironman was just my floor, right? Not the ceiling. I just felt like now I can get started. Now I can start living the way I'm supposed to live. I've been given a second lease at this. I signed up to compete in and I'm not necessarily the kind that, it doesn't have to always be bigger. It just has to have meaning. I have the opportunity to race a full Ironman and a half Ironman in back-to-back days. Now, you know, this Ironman doesn't do that often because it's a logistic nightmare. So when I decided to do that, I called and I'm like, I'm a member of the Ironman Foundation. So I'm like, hey, do y'all have an Ironman Foundation? They're like, hey, wait a minute. Aren't you a veteran? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, hey, would you like to be the Gold Star Initiative rep where you carry the flag and give it to a Gold Star family at the end? And I'm like, yeah, please. I'd like to do that. Hell yeah. There's no way I'm going to say no. Cause I mean, I had been signed up for Cozumel and then like COVID hit and I was like, oh, you know, whatever. And I just couldn't get motivated to do it because there wasn't a why. I'd be going doing it fast. It's not a big motivator for me. I'm not a medal collector. But when they said that, I was like, I mean, yeah, doing the 1.5 on back-to-back days was big. But when they said carry the flag and hand it to a Gold Star member, man, I'm thinking, okay, so let me get, so they're like, which race would you like to do it? I'm like, I want to fucking do it for both of them. And they're like, you want to carry the flag for 39.3 miles on that run? I'm like, yes. And my logic of that was, I can suffer. It's going to end. But what those families are going through, it never ends, right? And that brings me back to today. Let me see if I can get it together here. I decided, so I live in Texas, and earlier this week, a psychopath went into an elementary school, and he killed 19 children and 2 teachers. Now, wherever you stand politically or whatever, doesn't matter. I mean, these are children, right? So I felt so much pain for those families. My ex-wife is a teacher, and I have a small child. And I just felt like I can do something, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be monetary. I just want to go out and suffer a little bit for those people. So I decided today, I decided I was going to do it this weekend. I was going to run 21 miles. Well, Dr. Pam and I were scheduled to talk at 12 o'clock, and I already had a call at 9 and ended at 9:30. And I started, and then she asked me if we could do 12:30, and I'm like, yeah, you know what, we can. And then I decided I'm going to do that run today. I'm going to go out today. I decided that today at about 8:45, and I hadn't eaten yet, right? So about 9:35, I was planning on being running, but I hadn't eaten yet. So I went out, and about 3 miles into that, I was like, oh, bad idea. Maybe I need to do this on Saturday. But I told myself, don't be a pussy. Pardon me, but listen, this is going to suck. And I know where this is going. I know I'm going to be lightheaded. I know I'm probably going to throw up, which I did at about mile 11. No, about mile 13, I threw up. I couldn't keep anything down. My legs quit turning over at about mile 17, 18. It was hell. But I finished it. And my whole thought was, dude, you can suffer for 2.5, 3 hours. Those people are never, ever, ever going to be without that. So for me, I can't tell you how many times, and I went to that bridge I talked about, and that's where I ran. And the emotions I felt over the last, and now again, it pales into comparison to what that community is going through. But man, that was, there was something more carrying me on that run than just my 2 legs, my 2 feet.
I feel it. And first of all, congratulations. And thank you so much for doing such a meaningful run. It's just so important to understand, once again, if I just told you to run 21 miles randomly, you'd say, yeah, whatever. And you'd say, yeah, excuse me, I got to go have breakfast or something. You're crazy. If I told you to do it for this purpose, you're slapping on your running shoes and you're out the front door. And so what a beautiful story, and I relate big time. I ran the New York Marathon 6 weeks after 9/11. And there were, it was unspeakable to see the millions of people who came out, and we had 30,000 runners, and it was incredible. So I know exactly what that's like, because I mean, for me, I was like, shut up and run. I was there with a group that we all trained together with, and we just all said the same thing. Those people who suffered 6 weeks ago, they'll suffer for the rest of their lives. So what we can do is suffer for the X number of hours it's going to take us to finish this sucker, and just get it done. So I so relate to, what you say. and it also is another thing that, well, stand up and show everybody your t-shirt. I love this. There it is.
Yeah. So this shirt says, do not give in to the war within. And what this shirt is, it's just to bring awareness to veteran suicide. Recently, I mean, it's been a few years, a study was released that 22 veterans a day commit suicide. Now, I don't know what that number is today, but I will venture to say, after a couple of years of lockdowns, after what appears to be financial turmoil for a lot of people, I'm concerned that number is going to increase, right? So for somebody that I battled depression, I've been in a low place. Man, if you see a veteran, if you know one, tell them you appreciate them. Man, it goes so far to most of those guys. So there's a lot going on, man. And we're in my age group and kids younger than us. We're the group to where if they were in the military, they probably were during a pretty rough time, right? So
absolutely. And well, what we can say is, I'm sitting here with a veteran. So what I can say is how much we appreciate you and everything you did and your service to our country, and for all you're doing for veterans out there, especially, holding the flag and the rest of it. So, Boyd, all I can say is, this has been one hell of a, Club 100 podcast, really getting to know you. And I think we were talking before the podcast, how cool it is to actually see you come alive, more than just the videos, which are like a minute long and the rest of it, but to actually listen to your humanity. And I want to thank you on behalf of the whole damn club, and also all the people whose lives you're touching, including Jason, who was our first podcast for Club 100, for all the work you're doing to be able to share your inspiration, your guidance, your instruction, in everything that really revolves around fitness, mind and body, because your posts mention both. And I really appreciate that in a big way. So one nugget from you before we end this podcast. What kind of a little shout out would you like to give to people out there who may be sitting there saying, oh no, they're like Boyd, they were kind of perched on the precipice of change and I'm not quite sure. And really, maybe I'll wait for another month or 6 months or, whatever. What would you say?
Hey, first, the most important thing I can tell you is start where you are. Okay.
Beautiful.
You don't have to get in shape to start getting in shape, right? Don't lose weight before you start going to the gym. Start where you're at. Don't give up. Just keep moving forward. If you focus and you're consistent and you just keep making small adjustments and taking small steps, you can't help but change. It does work. It absolutely does. So when you catch that fire, you catch a little spark, just fan it with everything you've got and don't let go of it. And you are capable of so much more than you know.
That is beautiful. And how can people learn about your program?
Yeah, you can, the easiest way, most common way to reach me is on Twitter, my name @Boyd Myers. You can also go to boydmyers.com. That's a blog. It's about to get a facelift. But yeah, that's, if you want to reach out to me, if you're not on Twitter, you can just go to my blog and you can find me there.
Fantastic. Thank you for the gift of your amazing story. I just know, I can pretty much guarantee you that you've touched so many lives. And for everyone out there, that wraps another episode of the Club 100 podcast. And if you're really looking to join us, come on now, please. We would love to have people on board to be able to help support and to basically work with. I mean, come on, we love to hear from you. It's a great community. Just follow us at 100 Club 100. And then we'll once again give you that royal welcome. So thanks again. And we look forward to the next episode. Have a great day, everyone.